Sorry. The button was pushed.
It's too late.
For anyone who might be watching us while flying back on international travel, I don't think this is not.
From Portugal.
This is not what anyone's going to be wanting to spend their time with when they're flying back from Portugal. All right, Caroline, you're the first box.
I don't think. I mean, I've just been working on these interviews. Oh, I skipped. I can't remember why. Oh, yeah. So I skipped we didn't have a financial meeting what's it called? AL income meeting this week. Because I had double booked us, of course, for 6 o'clock on a Tuesday. But Jeannie showed one of our interviews to the Access to Justice Commission yesterday. I don't know how it went. We made all these changes, and then I found out she had to do. Well, I had to do some rush changes. I didn't get them all in. So, and I don't know how it went because she's on vacation, but they had this meeting yesterday.
She's not the only one. Bryce isn't really here either.
Yeah. Oh, really? So there was a meeting during her vacation. I kind of would have liked to go just to see, but we'll see. But she's been unable to do much reviewing of the work that I've done. And then in the last week or so, she's just kind of jumped in, but then I have to go back to the interviews that I did, in February and try to remember what I was thinking, And we've made some really good changes, but she also just wants these things done like last August. So that's where we are, walking the line between compromise and something. So.
Yeah, it is weird thinking about that. It's like, what was I working on last August? I'm still working on that same darn. Yeah. All right.
Well, you do. And the thing is, you go back to it and you think, wait a minute, why are we asking these questions? This person would have already have done this. Why are we asking them if they want this? And I think the other thing that is interesting, I think is worth mentioning is that if somebody's in your interview, do you need to ask them, do you want to be here? I mean, by the time they've got, especially with a lot of hours, interview form, whatever. Sometimes you're checking that they're in the right place. Yeah. But other times they've gone to the website, they've gone to the landing page, they've clicked, you tell them what they need, and then you say, do you want this? It seems like it's redundant and a little bit irritating for a user.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just think there's a way to think about it. And then this is for the interviews, particularly, I don't know so much that you would have this with forms, but they've already told you they're they're a defendant in a custody or a divorce
case. There's context.
Yeah. And I think because we can ask all these questions, we tend to. Whereas sometimes if they're here, just give them the information. Don't ask them the information. So that's been my sort of light bulb moment this week with teeny Christmas lights going along.
Little tiny light bulbs.
Yeah.
I actually have, you can't see it because of my background, but I actually have some nice little tiny Christmas lights up behind. Which I'd plug in if it was easy. But
anyway, that's where my brain's been this week.
All right. Michelle.
I have been mostly not doing anything. This is how it is
Fair.
Sometimes. But I have been trying to get the upload bug dealt with, and everything seems to be thinking it's in a different directory, and I cannot get things to the right directory. So I can't access the files that people want to upload.
What is this for Kiln or is this for
This is Kiln in the Playground.
Oh, yeah.
Quentin very kindly found a bug for us, which I appreciate, but now I can't apparently solve. So, and I don't know how to solve it upstream, Bryce, because we were talking about passing in arguments But I don't know what the arguments are going to be in the playground, especially not on an S3 server because I don't have one. But even I don't know what to pass in from the playground itself, so I don't know how to make that work currently either. Though if I could, maybe that would be a way to sidestep all the other issues I've been having with the directories. That would be nice. Yeah, if anyone wants to noodle around in directories, then I'm the one to come to. We can noodle.
You can noodle.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
All right.
that's about it, I think, unless there's something else which I can't remember.
Bryce, anything from before you went on vacation?
Yeah, a few things. Which I was going to say context for Michelle. I am off, kind of, not really. I'm taking off, but I'm like still sort of around and doing stuff. From like now to the end of next week.
You should really just take off.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's one of those I could do other things that are still useful. I don't know. But no, before I left, I did all of the appeals court forms now have a screen where we ask for their pronouns, and those pronouns are then put into the motion itself, which helps the court when knowing what to do when they refer to it. It was a thing that the appeals court specifically asked us for, and I forget the exact language of it, but they like what exactly they've done, but they've had motion and passing like rules and stuff that are like allow them to ask for pronouns so they can do things like this. And so that's all in. I've updated Google Analytics to be Google Analytics 4 for all of our stuff that I can. So far, I can't do that for court forms online.
Yes. Was that the request thing? I saw there was a message.
Yes, yeah. That was. I did a quick Teams ping to you on that. And it's one of those things that it's confusing because all Google says is that like there's the old stuff, UA is the older stuff, and there's Google Analytics 4, which is the new stuff. All it says is the old stuff will stop processing data on July 1st, but it's also like it automatically, like when it tries to load the old stuff on, like when you go to court forms online, that old stuff is already hard coded into the site, but and so when you go there, it loads the old Google Analytics, which then automatically adds the newer Google Analytics stuff to it, since it's like it's
slowing
linked.
it down is what it's doing.
It's what you said.
Yeah, it's directly. It did like those two things are directly linked between the old and the new. And I don't know if come July 1st, everything for the old stuff will just stop working. Like it will stop like properly forwarding you to the new one. So yeah,
this is why I need to get. Well, this is why. Well, I was going to say this is why I need to read my stuff, but then I'm like, this is also why meetings are good because they force things.
Yeah. So it's just before July we have to have it.
Okay, so you have a pull request with all.
I got a pull request, and it should do. The pull request should be good enough that I'm assuming you can go through your notebook process with the right environment variables and everything, and then push it to S3. Yeah, it just has to be up before the end of next week.
Oh yeah, you just put it in the build site. Oh, perfect.
They're
like 2 lines and like a couple of little things that's easy.
Do you change? So when you say it's hard coded,
it's just it renders in the template we have for the site.
it's the web pages, it's the web pages, right? Not the interviews.
Yes. Interviews. You can just. I think it's the DocAssembles like staying. They have it's like Google Analytics. There's an ID you just put in there. That's the thing that I changed for all of our interview stuff already.
Right.
And that's all you need to change.
Is it a new ID for Google Analytics 4 than Universal Analytics?
It is a different ID. It's like a completely different page and everything.
Right.
And I think I was a little confused. There is some more work to do, like to export your old data, whatever. But you have until the end of the rest of the year to do that. and mostly I floundered around trying to figure out all this other Google Analytics stuff, which I've sort of just decided we don't. Half of it's related to ads. We just don't use that at the moment, and then the other half is just making sure that like we can still get the right page view data and stuff because they process data completely differently than how the UA stuff used to do it. But it looks like it's still just good and it works by default. And it looks like DocAssembly doesn't need to change anything about that. I'm assuming that there hasn't been, because I'm assuming there'd be a bit more conversation about that in the Slack and anything, but that's really it. So
It's funny what a small change it is. It really is just changing in like an ID.
yeah.
And then,
Yeah,
and then just learning how Google Analytics 4 works different, like running reports and.
Yeah. The report side is completely different. And that's the stuff that really changes. And that was what I was sort of struggling with, is that didn't help. I don't know a ton about Google Analytics, the old stuff. And so they only referred to things of, oh, the old stuff did this, the new stuff does this. And I'm like, I don't know what either of those words are. But yeah, it is pretty different. The only concrete thing that I did find was that like by default, what they consider users is now active users as opposed to just anyone who visits your page. So sometimes that number can go down. Yeah. And that's the only like concrete thing that I've read and understood about the difference between the two.
Everything else I always really liked.
Sessions as well, which was confusing.
Yeah.
They had users and then it was hard to get users because there was this thing with sessions. And so then sessions were the things that they were sort of more important than users. Yeah, it went from Google Analytics to Universal Analytics to now Google's 4.
Google Analytics 4.
Analytics 4.
And the only other thing that I could really tell that doesn't affect us, but that like Google Analytics 4 is like, if you have an app, you can look at your app analytics the same way that you would your website. That's the thing that it's unified now. So ironically, Universal Analytics is not the universal one. It is Google Analytics 4 that is like, gets it from all of your different things. But none of that's really relevant to us. So that's it. That's sort of what I was able to do this week. And I'm tackling smaller things here and there, but yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. I guess that's me. I've been to 2 conferences in the last 2 weeks, so that was like one of them I got to take the T, the other one took a plane. So I just, got to be in different metal tubes traveling with people. One of them I didn't have to dress up, and one of them I did. Very different cultures.
Was the plane the dress up one, or was the? No,
the plane was the not dress up one. That was great. It meant I didn't have to take a suit with me. Everything fit in a backpack. It's really nice.
Was it Chicago? Where did you go?
I went to Philly. It was CaliCon.
Oh, that's right.
Computer assisted legal instruction. It's a consortium, Michelle, of a bunch of different law schools. So that was fun. That's John Mayer's group. I don't know if you've heard that name before, but Michelle. I figure everyone else has.
Mayer, Michelle?
Is the access the A to J author folks are a subset of Cali. And it was a lot of fun. It was a very nice group of people, and I shouldn't say too many nice things in case someone watches the video and gets their head baked. But it was a very nice conference. It was the first time I'd attended, and I thought it was a really good conference.
That's cool. Because it's more than just
Oh yeah, well, Cali is the entire
document automation.
Yeah, that's just one of the things that Cali does. It's one of their cornerstone projects. It's kind of like like one of the things we do is Spot. One of the things we do is so. But it was really.
So what Cali is computer assisted learning?
Legal instruction.
Legal instruction.
So they're a consortium of law schools. Legal aids actually can join the consortium as well for free. Law schools have to pay dues. I think I don't know if governments can join. I know legal aids can. But basically they have they put together resources and stuff. A to J author is one of the things they have, but they also have the thing that one one of the things I really like about what they do, which they didn't talk about much here, or maybe they did, I just didn't go to any of the sessions. I was giving a session, is they do open case books. So they do basically, so professors can write their own case books and offer them up for free. So they do open case books, which is a big deal because usually those course books cost like $300. It's insane. And the author doesn't really see the $300. It's a racket.
I was trying to get them to do, legal tactics. That 800 page. I was one, and the Mass Law Reform does 5 or 6 benefits advocacy guides, and I was trying to get them to do that because that's a huge lift for Mass Law Reform to produce those. And if we could, get a Word document and then turn them into. Do they do the books you're talking about? Are they online as well? Can you?
Yeah, they put them online. Is what they do. I think they're all online.
Right, and so they've got the tech. They've got
they have like an authoring tool, and you just gotta provide the content.
Yeah, and I think
you have to do some formatting and stuff, but like follow the instructions.
That's what I was hoping I was hoping somebody would make that. I mean, I tried to make the connection. I think John wasn't sure of the value of it. But that Legal Tactics is a great book for any state if you can decide, take it as a framework and then adjust it for your state. It's huge. It's 800 pages. Same with the Family Law Advocacy Guide. I mean, the clerks at the court, some of them, I was on a committee a while ago now, and they'd never seen the Family Law Advocacy Guide, and it's been around for 20 years. And they were saying every court should have this at the counter because this is fantastic.
Yeah, there are so many of those things where like the information discovery mechanism is just like it's like this thing, someone made this thing, but no one knows about this thing except for these people. Yeah.
Well, it's really hard to distribute them, like you said, with the case books. They cost a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
And it's hard. You need the wherewithal to distribute them, and that's why it's so good to publish them as web pages.
Yeah.
So, but you still need somebody to do the work to do that.
Someone has to do the work.
Yeah.
That's always the key. Although the thing I've been working on was actually an idea I got at CaliCon, which is like using LLMs to do like simulation class type stuff. So I've been building a fun little text-based simulation adventure for arraignments.
Can we see it? Or it's not ready to show yet?
It's not ready to show yet. It's just I got some wireframes. I do have some code that works in the background, but it's not attached to wireframes. But it's basically we'll randomly generate a client and a case, and then you do a bail interview. So you're preparing to do your bail. It's a classic simulation that I did way back when I was a public defender, like when we were starting out. So you basically it's so that you can have your interview with your client to learn about them, but not necessarily about the facts of the case, but about them, because you need to know those things in order to make your argument for bail. Because Michelle, in case I don't know what you know about bail, but bail is just what is imposed to have you return to court. It's not supposed to be about whether or not you're dangerous or if you did it or what. It's just like, are you going to come back the next time you have a court date? And so the only thing you're supposed to argue about are whether or not the person's going to come back on the next court date. So you look at their past record, but you're only looking at their past record to see, like, you're supposed to only be looking at their record to see if they have shown up before when asked to show up. And so you ask things about community ties and stuff. And you're like, so-and-so's lived here for, 20 years. They're not going anywhere. They have kids here. They want to make it to their son's baseball game next Tuesday. Yeah. So those are the things you're supposed to know about. So it's an exercise in talking to them. And then also like talking to the client who wants to maybe talk about their facts, but it's like, no, we're in lockup here with a whole bunch of other people. You don't want to talk in front of them. We're going to talk later. But it's a fun little.
Is this to train people how to ask those questions, or is it to actually ask the client?
It's to train people. So it's like a simulation for law students or new attorneys. Mm-hmm. And so basically the idea is, well, what is this? So you have to think about what are the things that the bail statute asks for, and then make sure that you ask them a bunch of questions that are going to help you be able to address those issues in the bail statute. Mm-hmm. And so then when you're done, it'll be like, well, one of the things you might have wanted to ask was this, you might want to ask that. And what's nice is since it randomly generates these folks, you can just like keep doing it over and 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 over. And you can vary it's like having a little actor studio. You can like give instructions to the LLM to be like, this is, your motivation, or this is, how you respond to things. And so it provides you a lot of variation. And I don't know, I think it's a pretty compelling medium for, I mean, it doesn't replace like live simulations, which is sort of gold standard, but you can, I mean, we did like when I was doing training, we did like one live simulation, right? I mean,
I wonder if you could do something like that. I mean, we do the AL Kiln testing of our interviews. But I wonder if you could do something like simulate somebody who reads at a 4th grade level and go through the interview and see what they stumble on. I wonder if you could get anything that would be.
You could. The problem is that when you start asking them to asking LLMs to do stuff like that, you get very stereotypical responses.
Oh, right, because it's what's out there. It's how people are described already out there, because they can only take information that already exists.
Yeah, and I don't think you're not getting. I think they're really useful if you want to produce like some simulated data for like some scenarios, right? That might be a nice place. Like here's someone with produce a scenario. Someone with so for some you want to fill in text and stuff and do some scenario.
Yeah,
that's that's interesting. But yeah, like people have been having fun like giving them polling questions. Say polling questions like pretend you're a member of this demographic. Now answer these questions. And of course, what they do is they give more extreme answers than actual people, because it's all sort of stereotypes. But yeah. So the idea here is to lean into what they're good at. They're good at confabulating things. So you ask them to be an actor, and it doesn't matter if they make stuff up because it's a simulation.
So yeah.
And so you lean.
I've been thinking of using an LLM to generate random input instead of having us do random input tests, for the LLM to generate the random input for the tests. But if that's coming, it's a ways off. So yeah,
it's also it's like computationally expensive when you could just be like, I have a list, choose
exactly.
I have 3 different lists and let me like just pick from these.
Also been thinking of having an LLM generate the tests, period, like for a developer, like looking at the code and generating the tests.
Yeah, but that would be cool.
That would be very cool.
I've been having a lot of fun with like mixed methods, where like sort of some traditional methods mixed in with LLMs to sort of smooth out the edges on things. So like I was doing entity extraction with regular expressions, but also with LLMs. So basically, if you can make a nice regular expression for things, you do that. Otherwise, you define an LLM and you use that. And so so there's mixed methods. I think there's a lot of potential there.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Well, see, this is where I've gone off and I've talked about things that are not the assembly line, but that occupy the assembly line is only like technically like 20% of my time. So it's weird because it's so much of everyone else's time.
Yeah.
And yet a large chunk of my time having these meetings effectively takes a large chunk of that time. But it's all worth it. I'm very excited about all the stuff we built. I think it's great. And everywhere I go, people are like, oh, you guys are doing that thing. Apparently, awesome. Quentin, we got shout outs in Portugal from the keynote speaker.
Oh, wow. That's
so
nice.
It's like, yeah, the world knows us.
So exciting.
Not surprising, given the large international.
It got a best paper award too.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Really?
Oh, sorry, you missed that one. Yeah,
I missed that one.
It was like on Thursday or something. He sent a pic of. It was like that. It was like best innovation or something. Yeah.
Oh, we gotta tell Andy about
best
that.
Innovative paper award, which was
for the paper that he
you
wrote
guys
this
have been
year.
working on it.
Yeah.
We gotta tell Andy about that. Actually, we gotta tell I know we're supposed to tell people about these things, so I gotta find that and tell people. All right, I think that's enough. Anything else for recording?
Mm.
Mhm.
or I think